Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Casual Hour podcast, ostensibly about video games, but mostly talking about that old shit. I'm your host, Chase
We're talking
Kennedy.
about each other?
Oh, yeah, we're going to talk about some old shits right here. Me, Chase Kennedy, my good friend, Bobby Pease.
Hello?
And then that other guy, Johnny
Hi.
Ansich.
How you doing?
The other guys.
It's
good to be
here. It's great to have you both here. If I'm the one introducing the show, that means it's deep dive time, and that means it's my turn for a deep dive. And I'm really excited. Bobby and I gave the sneakest of sneak previews on Monday when we did our Casual Monday stream. I showed you about, let's say, this much of what it was going to be, and then I took it right back. But now I'm going to show the whole thing. We're going to be talking about this particular magazine.
Oh, this one?
That one, yes.
Oh, this one.
That one. It's
interesting.
Wow, that's amazing that you guys all got the same magazine as me. We're talking
on
about
my shelf for the last 18 years.
We're talking about Game Informer, but specifically this issue of Game Informer. I have a friend. We have a friend of the show, Pierce Corshane, was talking to me about how he donated to the Video Game History Museum. Which is led by a lot of cool guys. Steve Lynn, I know, is part of that. Frank Cifaldi is a big part of that. And one of the things that happens when you donate to the Video Game History Museum is that they will send you some really old-ass video game magazines that are like duplicates from their collection, which is awesome. And I should do that at some point. But also, I have a shit ton of old video game magazines myself from me collecting stuff. and getting stuff over the years. So what I did, I went out and purchased 2 more copies of this magazine. I mean, this is mine. This one came in the mail to me. Actually, might not have come into the mail to me. It doesn't have my address on it. So
Did
I
you
probably
get this
bought this
at a
in a
GameStop?
store. No, this was pre GameStop. This was way pre GameStop for Game Informer. And then I also purchased another 2 copies of this issue 108 of Game Informer. And this is the April 2002 edition, if I'm not mistaken. April 2002. Volume 12, number 4, issue 108 of Game Informer magazine. So I bought another couple copies from off eBay, got them to you guys. And here's what I want to do tonight. I asked you guys to pour through this magazine. Each of us looked through it, and I wanted us to pick out 3 things from this magazine. Stories, advertisements, whatever we saw that we thought was interesting. Just pick out 3 things from there, and let's talk about it. Because I view these magazines as like time capsules.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this thing it made me feel some things, man.
It did.
Totally. Where like video games were way different back then. Video game journalism was way different back then. The money that got spent
People playing
on
video games were way different back then.
That's true. They were probably less shitty. Well, you know what? They were probably the same. They were probably the same amount of shitty, but they didn't have an easily accessible platform to be shitty on.
Yeah, they were just back then they were in their parents' basements, according to everybody.
Yes, where they belonged.
This is back when you needed to go to GameSpy to find a server to play Halo Combat Evolved.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go online, there was no easy way to do that with Xbox Live. You had to work for it to be a dick.
Did you all? And Chase, if you're going to ask something around this question, you can just shut me up. But did you all have a subscription to Game Informer in April of 2002?
I did not.
I guess I didn't either because like again, this doesn't have the sticker with my name and address on it. I do have magazines that have that. I can go back in and get it. Game Informer was my magazine, which looking back on it, I don't know, it was fine. Like I
had a subscription I had this magazine.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I was an EGM guy.
Yeah, Johnny, you were cool. We get it. EGM was the right call. I curse myself every day for having. The
I don't know, man. Like I liked Game Informer a whole lot, and I did not like pick it out on my own. But this was a boon of like a membership that I had through GameStop. And with the pro membership, you got the Game Informer membership, or like, and I maybe at that point in time I did not have the pro membership, but I was just trading things in, had some credit to burn, and anytime I went over to near Fairview Heights, Illinois, I went to the mall to the GameStop, and that's where I would pick up these magazines. But there, after a while, I started to get them delivered in the mail, and I always remember just be like the magazine that we have now is obviously very old, but in pretty good shape. It's well read, is how I would say it. And the magazines that I had were well read. And part of me wishes I would have kept them because that was fun. But then I remember when the iPad came out, they started to switch over to PDFs for a while, and then they actually had an app that came out through GameStop that you could access these through. But there was something it's weird, man. Like I'd be turning pages, and like I had these moments, like I remember turning this page, like I knew what to expect. Like there's a piece of art I'm not going to talk about, like in the art section of the magazine, like that I distinctively remember poring over as a younger individual. And
well, Bobby, I'll tell you that you shouldn't wish to still have all those magazines, because as a person who does, they're just heavy and awkward and take up a lot of space in a bookshelf when you have hundreds of these magazines and for whatever reason refuse to get rid of them. It's a bad time. But yes, I also remember, I don't know if I remember this specific magazine, but I do remember reading Game Informer a lot, taking it to school, every free minute that I had, every time you'd switch classes to go to your next class in like middle school, and you'd get that 5-minute buffer before class started. It's like, oh, maybe I can read through a review, or you'd talk to somebody. You'd pass the magazine around during the day to everybody in class, and then you'd grab it back at the end of the day. It was such an interesting time, kind of pre-internet, or not even pre-internet, but like the internet was around. It just wasn't as accessible as it is today. You had GameSpot putting up the tiniest little postage stamp videos, but this was the age of screenshots. This was the age of going through a magazine, looking at a screenshot, and going, "Yeah, that game looks cool. I guess let's give that a shot." And then you see it in person, and you go, "It doesn't look anything like the screen."
It was also a time where like I didn't look at the people who like. As I've gotten older, I've chased personalities more than I have like publications, and I remember like, well, Game Informer gave that a 7 instead of like the person who was actually doing the review or the person who wrote the piece on it.
Right. The entity that did it, not the reviewer.
Back in the day. But that's why I'm jealous of Johnny, and that's kind of where I was getting to when he was talking about EGM. Is that I think EGM was relatively the first one, and that kind of melded with 1UP. That was also doing this in the 1UP show, and that was such a big point in my life of switching from Game Informer to really only caring about what EGM and those people had to say, because you saw them. They were more out front. They had that was when you're starting to get into early video game podcasts, and I'm listening to the 1UP show. I'm listening to 1UP Yours. I'm listening to a lot of those things, and starting to go like, oh, that's Garnet Lee, that's Shane, that's Nick Sutner, friend of the show, Nick Sutner, and you start to have opinions with those personalities, and like you said, that's where we've gone in video game journalism or video game influencer culture or whatever. That's where we are right now. That's your Giant Bombs. That's your Waypoints. That's a lot of these people that you follow from outlet to outlet because you're following the people, not this. Like you said, Bobby, like what did Game Informer give this? Not what Andrew Reiner gave this. Not what Andy McNamara gave this. And I only know those two names because those are the two longest running names I remember from Game Informer. Andy McNamara, editor-in-chief, just retired a couple of years ago, maybe less than a year ago, from his head at Game Informer.
Last year, because the last review he did was for The Last of Us Part 2. Remember that?
Yeah.
Went out on top.
Went out on a bad one. No, that's Bobby and I were thinking the same, just the opposite.
And Johnny.
Anyway, so Johnny's somewhere in the middle. He doesn't know if he likes that game or hates that game. Yeah. He did change his mind every.
He feels the same. Like I feel the same way about Johnny that he does about The Last of Us 2.
So
it's either going to be really good or I'm going to hate it.
Burning sun.
And I'm somewhere in between those feelings, depending on the day.
Man, yeah. Oh, man, I love video game magazines.
I do too.
They were so good. They are still very good. I don't know if you guys have purchased a video game magazine or even know where to find it.
Chase, I was still receiving issues of Game Informer up until last year.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That's impressive. There would be some times where in my building somebody had a subscription, I guess, like somebody who left had a subscription, and so it would just pile up on the glass table by our mailboxes. Mm-hmm. And after a couple days, if it was still there, I'm like, okay, this is mine now. So I just grabbed that, committing mail fraud to get a Game Informer.
One of the things that sticks out to me here is when everybody was leaving Giant Bomb, Jeff was talking about, like what even is a video game website, and like what even is a video game magazine these days that isn't a string of tweets or like a Medium article or something a bit more like a stream, even like somebody could be like drawing out or like doing like a dev preview. I mean, here we are on the eve of E3, and there's still speculation of like what it even is E3. And
it's changed so much.
I look at that and like, you mentioned Time Capsule, and the thing about time capsules that you have to be cautious about is like, yeah, there's a lot of great things that it's like, remember when, but it also can create this shadow over what is. And like reading through this, like of course things seem simpler. And it's interesting like how many games you see being covered. And one of the things that stood out to me in this is just how hard it is to find publications or even information on even shitty games. And the amount of time, like this magazine was out for a month before the next one came out. And even then the circulation of it was probably something pretty big months after that. And I look at like a review window. What do they say? Games got 24 to 40 hours to really make an impact, and then it's forgotten. And so here we have a month-long preview or review of games that had a moment in time review that could not really be changed on the fly. Like somebody couldn't go into Metacritic and really dazzle or change those numbers.
Yeah.
And so I look
like let me grab someone here to illustrate your point. I don't think any of us picked out 18-wheeler American Pro Trucker for the GameCube as one of our 3 things.
Well,
sorry,
wow.
if it was. I know, sorry. Game Informer gave it a 6, but like I said, this is the April 2002 issue, and this game came out in February 20th.
Right.
So that's a long lead time for somebody in a print industry to play the game, and of course there are print deadlines where you have to be able to get things out faster or get things finished faster before you would online, because you can publish things so much quicker online. But still, they got way more time to play a lot of these games than you would normally see on like a website. And now you are getting those shorter lead times. You are getting those review copies of games. Those are coming out later and later. As also games are getting hotter and hotter with patches and shit. And this was a time where that wasn't necessarily the case, or at least if well, actually, it wasn't the case. Like this wasn't. There were in this magazine. There's talking about like the PS2 online stuff, and this is PS2 online, so it's not like games are downloading patches. Games need to be more or less done when they go out the door at this point, because we didn't really get into the patching time until like 360 PS3 era. Anyway,
one other thing, really quick, one other brief note on it, just because like I do a lot of the design stuff for the show, and like that's a big deal to me. It's interesting to note that this was a time where magazines were doing more than what the internet could do. And what I mean by that is that our, the websites could not handle the graphics. And like we look back on this magazine, kind of laugh at the ads and things like that. But
yeah. Oh, they're so tacky.
But looking at what they couldn't do this on a website with bandwidth, and at the time in 2002, like we were just getting high-speed internet at my house.
Oh, and the video was like, a literal thumbnail.
Yeah. So I think that this was a period in time also, like a very brief one, because only a few years later, if that, the internet would have been able to do more for a viewer than what the magazine could. And I think that that's something to like really think about. Like this magazine as a time capsule was doing things with art and design and layout that you could not do on websites then at that point in time, which is really fascinating to look back on. So I'm excited to dive into it. I'm really curious what you all picked from this episode.
Yeah, I kind of want to. So one last thing, like we keep mentioning time capsules here, and I think that's a really great term for this, but there is certainly something that the things that we picked, these are in like a very specific historical context of a magazine. It's not picking out, it's not going to Metacritic and finding the review that was written in 2002 and reading that one review and going, oh, well, I guess that's what they thought of it. Like we could read this magazine. I don't want to give away stuff, but there are 2 games that are in very similar genres, or there's 3 baseball games that are written about here, and written about for different platforms as well. And having those 3 reviews all written on the same page, where you can read this one and then read the one right next to it to have in context how they think about this game versus that game, is much different than taking a minute to search one and read through that and then maybe see that there was another, or not even remember. Like none of these baseball franchises are even still going anymore. So how would you know? Was Triple Play still a thing back then? Was it just All-Star Baseball? Who knows? I find magazines to be really fascinating on that end. Also, I follow a Tumblr that just has a bunch of video game magazine ads, classic ads from anywhere. And I just saw this one on the Tumblr before I started reading through this magazine, and I love it. This fucking hipster ass.
I'm really glad that you pointed that one out because
Pac-Man World 2 one.
Man,
it's good.
Bobby, if you shaved,
I could be that person.
You might be able to be that person.
I know.
Who knows?
Anyway, I played that game.
Of course you did
not, and it was bad.
I played the original Pac-Man World. I played Pac-Man 2: The New Adventure. Dude, that's what I played.
Really cool. I'm sorry. Like, this is just like I'm up in my feelings, and like I remember going to the back of these magazines when I get them with my buddies. We'd have highlighters. We would highlight the games that they were previewing or reviewing. We would throw the magazine into our bag, well, at that point in time I could drive, but before that we would hop on our bikes and we would go to because I rented a lot of games then. We go to the Family Video and we would pull our magazine out and be like, okay, they got this game, let's pick them up. And like, that's how we would check out games. Like we literally
like this magazine has a reviews archive. You can go back and see all the scores. And man, it really, if you were a person who are just like, I don't care about the text of the review, just give me the score. That's all this was. Reviews archive is just,
and that actually is a website for them right scores.
Now. Yeah,
you can drill into the year and everything.
And so many people are now getting away from that, where they're like, well, the scores don't matter. We don't care. You shouldn't care about the score. You should read the text to know, because it is a personality-driven thing. I know this person, I know their feelings, so even when they give a 7, but they explain it in the right way, it might be a 9 for me, in my personal opinion. Anyway, let's get in here. We each picked 3 things. We're going to talk about those things, talk about the historical context around it, how things played out, if they played out at all, and just talk about this particular era of time, this particular 2002 issue of Game Informer. And then see how things have gone from there. And I'm sure we'll talk about advertising a little bit more and maybe some more stuff about journalism generally. But I think it's time to pick something. Yeah. So, Bobby, why don't you go first? Can I take a guess at one of yours? Because I also found this interesting to like go through this magazine and go like, oh, I think Bobby will talk about this.
Yeah. Do you want to guess the page? Or you want to guess the article or whatever it was?
Let me guess the page first. If you say yes, we can get into it. Okay. Page 1 and 2.
No.
No? Okay. Because Bobby has been playing Clap Hands Golf quite a bit, which is what was the studio name for that?
Clap Hands.
Remember. Oh yeah, yes. Yeah. Clap Hands is the fucking studio. But on the first 2 pages is an advertising spread for this is Hot Shots Golf 3, which turned into Clap Hands Golf eventually.
There goes the country club.
I thought for sure Bobby was going to talk about some golf stuff.
Chase, I'll give you maybe a bonus point here. How about that?
Okay.
If you two would turn to page 77, and we're going to look at a review to start off with for me, and for those of you on stream, I'll try and do this as best as I can.
Bobby, I also have something from page 77. Let's hope.
So do I.
Let's hope. Oh no, Johnny and I totally picked the same thing.
Well, I don't think either one of you picked this for me, so I'm going to be talking about this article here, which does not translate well, but
which one?
Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2002.
That was your shit, wasn't it?
Yeah, you were big into the Tiger.
So again, just for the sake of continuity here, we all have the same magazine. We're all going through picking articles from it. You all have stuff.
This is back when people liked Tiger Woods, and he didn't do bad things to his wife, and he also had a back that worked.
So there's a lot that happens on this, and this is a really quick thing I'm going to read because it does tie into some Clap Hands stuff as well. Going from Hot Shots Golf 3 to this game in the space of a couple of days called for a pretty drastic changing of my gaming gears. This year's Tiger...
And you're quoting from the magazine.
Yeah, I'm just reading that from the magazine because it ties back into it.
Okay.
This year's Tiger features a contact system that forces players to pull one of the analog sticks towards them for the backswing, then pitch it forward for the follow-through. Any deviation from a perfectly vertical line and your ball will slice or hook accordingly. I have a feeling that golf enthusiasts will love the amount of detail EA has sunk into the game, but for the average gamer, this one is bound to go straight for the long stuff. And they gave it a 7.75. So
Pretty good.
the thing of it is 2002 literally set the course for the rest of these games to come. I personally feel that 2004 is the high watermark here, but 2002, PGA Tour Tiger Woods is the game that started my fascination and addiction to golf games. And this was a game that, I kid you not, 3 to 4 PlayStation 2 controllers were broken. And every single night, I'm not kidding, every night after school, me and 3 of my closest friends in high school came over to my house and we played Tiger Woods, and it was an every night thing. And so reading through this, knowing that, this was a game that like really was a defining game for me, which is funny to think because I'm not a huge sports person. But the memories I have around that game, and knowing that they compared it to Clap Hands, which has been a revered, mostly overseas, here Western side a little bit, but the fact that they were saying like, well, it's nothing, like it's not as good as this, and like they were even saying that the average gamer would shy away from the type of shot that you could do. I found that to be a bit uninformed, and maybe looking back on it, it's aged like milk in a way. So that was an interesting thing for me to see there.
You know what else is interesting to me is if this was the first game to use that right analog stick as the pullback swing forward thing, that's something EA then took and put in all their games. Like I remember all that right analog stick shit with Fight Night Round 3 on the Xbox.
Yep.
And
Madden
then we got like the Madden hit stick, and we got all sorts of stuff. NBA Street Volume 3, like not Volume 2. Volume 2 had button stuff, but Volume 3, you needed to start doing right stick stuff to do the trick system. Like this right analog stick movement stuff just went all throughout EA's games, and it seems like this is where that started, and that's huge. Yeah. That's a huge thing for video games, because other games certainly also took on that right stick idea of this is a way that you can get a little fine.
Funny?
Well, it used to be a 3-point system for golf games.
Right.
So you had your power, like you press to begin, you press it to hit it, and then you press it to end your swing. And then I remember that people were a little pissed that they moved away from it in Tiger, and it was hard. Like it was hard to do. Like that was not an easy thing to navigate the first time you use it. But it was definitely like, wow, this is so realistic. I'm actually controlling the swing of the club. And you mentioned I was playing Clap Hands Golf. Well, guess what? You use a very similar analog type system on that game now today as well. So pretty wild to think about.
So before we move on to our next one, Johnny, I believe before the podcast you said that you had some backups just in case somebody did copy.
Yeah.
Can I tell you what mine is? And
yes.
So if you have it, you can use one of your backups. I feel like we're going to talk about it anyway, and certainly you will jump in on this as well. You already know what I'm going to say, right? I was going to talk about this Kingsfield, the Ancient City video. But specifically, so we'll talk about the review on page 77 here. But I had it in like a further context. If you go to page 33. And I'll show this when I get to it. Page 33.
Yeah.
Bear with me. This. It is an advertisement for this very game. It's for this Kingsfield, the Ancient City. I found this to be maybe the most fascinating part. The review stuff is also interesting, and then I'll talk about another thing that's in this magazine that is somewhat related. I didn't even
see this ad.
This ad is crazy because this is just a Dark Souls ad. Like, I know this game is also just a Dark Souls game. It is FromSoftware. This is the legacy. Yeah. This is what came before Dark Souls, or Demon Souls specifically. But like, this is like just the typography on this text that says "Don't stumble around in the dark."
I mean, it's like a
dark,
Hot Topic. It's like a It's like a bad death metal band shirt.
It really is. It really is. But let me read the full thing here. Visit the website dedicated to giving you the last word on how to survive the greatest one-player challenge in the history of RPGs. I'm just talking about Dark Souls now. Like, that's just something they would say about Dark Souls. Hey, we made a website. Now they would say, we made a wiki. We made a wiki for you to go experience this challenging single-player RPG. And then it's got the website here, www.kingsfield.agetech.com. That website does not work. I tried it. It is dead.
Broken.
Did you try to go to
the
Wayback Machine?
Oh, yeah, you could do Wayback Internet Archive stuff. Yeah. Explore more than 40... Oh, they misspelled than. It should have been than, not then. Those Japanese bastards. Explore more than 40 levels of subterranean realm lost in time. Arm yourself with magic items capable of unleashing massive spells.
Dude,
there are more than 90 levels of power for your character. Learn to barter if you're a bit short on gold. I feel like the last one kind of lost it a little bit there.
Doesn't that skeleton look like it's just listening to some like real big fish just skanking over there?
Yeah. If only we had titles for this one. Skankaton. Skeleton. Maybe not. Maybe it's better that we don't. But let me read here what I wrote about this. So while 2/3 of the casual hour is pretty from software ambivalent, it's interesting to see how the larger gaming world's thoughts on the developer back in 2002 here. From games were given two From games were given ink back here. It's the first one here is Kingsfield: The Ancient City, which in Japan was actually titled Kingsfield 4. We never got the first Kingsfield over here, so they kind of have that Dynasty Warriors thing where our Kingsfield 1 is their Kingsfield 2, our Dynasty Warriors 2 is their our Dynasty Warriors 1 is their Dynasty Warriors 2.
I think Europe had it too, because in
that could be
Europe and the UK it was named Kingsfield 4. Because I was reading about it earlier today and
interesting.
watching a PAL gameplay, which was 10 frames less than the 60 FPS than what you'd want to have.
Like this, I'm
has
sure
From
somebody
always made bad games.
Yes.
Got it.
No, that's not true. We'll talk about good From games here in a second. But one of the interesting things, I mean, they put a subtitle on this, I'm sure, because somebody in the American office went, this is ridiculous. We can't just keep saying Kingsfield 3 and us talking about two different games.
Yep.
We'll give it a subtitle. You know what it's called. We know what it's called. And that's the same thing. So Kingsfield was definitely talked about. And now if you would quickly jump over to page 62.
Okay.
That is a preview for
Armored
Core 3, which is a From game that people like. The Armored Core series, mechs. So I'm amazed that I've never played an Armored Core game.
Neither have I.
You're like the mech enthusiast here.
I am. I wasn't back then, but actually, I am now.
I think I have played some Armored Core game at one point.
Yeah?
Yeah, man, it's wild to see where FromSoft was. It was like this studio that put out, games that got like middling to average reviews.
Yeah.
And they made a bunch of them. They made a bunch of Kingsfield games, they made a bunch of Armored Cores.
But Armored Core actually was pretty well reviewed in places. Mm-hmm. This one was not. It wasn't reviewed in this magazine. This is a preview, but I did find out what it got. It got actually mostly sevens and 8s. Game Informer given an 8. This one, Armored Core 3, would also get a PSP port later. That people did not like very much. But the big thing was that they were really changing up the Armored Core formula with this one. They were doing a lot of stuff from scratch because the second game was so popular, and they did so much stuff with it and kept that engine for such a long time with, I believe, some spin-offs and some other stuff that, this was pre-esports, but this was like an esport. The whole deal was that you would LAN up with other people and have these tournaments, these one-on-one tournaments. I remember, not in this magazine, but in another magazine called Tips and Tricks, they had a whole section that I think was called Hardcore, and it was all about, here's an Armored Core build, and here's the exact way to make this robot, and it's nuts. And then they'd have picture puzzles, which I thought were the coolest thing ever, and the only reason I bought that magazine. but yeah, Armored Core 3, one of the fascinating things from Armored Core 3 here, from this preview, they're talking about not just the LAN, but that you can use... I never owned a PS2 growing up, so I was not familiar with this, but there was something called an iLink cable, which is basically the same thing as a LAN cable. And you could, for this game, you could hook up 5 PS2s together using iLink cables.
Crazy.
4 for people to play the game. It was a 4-player multiplayer game. The 5th one was a special spectator mode so you could watch because they were doing these tournaments. Huh. That's nuts to me, is that you'd have to have all of these capabilities because people would actually go to their local regional stuff and play this game, and having a 5th TV that could just spectate was a really important thing for an audience, or at least the other players when they weren't playing. That I thought that blew my mind. Of like, nobody's gonna do this, but some people did.
Some people did.
Wait,
because this game didn't have online.
Did you go twice?
No, I was talking about FromSoftware as a group, about Kingsfield, about Armored Core. I did want to finish off though, back to page 77 with the review of
Chase us on the loophole. His one has taken 3 pages.
My one was about FromSoftware, which I thought was interesting because FromSoftware is like the biggest developer in the world these days, and everybody cares about Elden Ring and the next shit they're doing.
I don't care about it.
But at this point, Kingsfield, the ancient city, got a 6.5 and was called...
That does not happen.
Andrew Reiner did the review for this. He called it slow. He called it complex. He said it will bore 99.9% of the gamers out there. And he ended his review with the words, "Buyers beware." People did not like this game. And now Dark Souls, which is essentially the same thing, except not in first person and not quite as slow, still very slow, is one of the biggest franchises in the world.
They cracked the code. And then suddenly they made the most influential game in the last 10 years. It's crazy.
I thought it was amazing, and I don't even like FromSoftware games. So sorry, Johnny, for stealing yours. I figured you'd have that one.
Yeah, it's okay.
I found it to be a fascinating thing.
I have a couple of backups.
Okay. Well, why don't you give us one of yours?
Oh, I need y'all to strap in. And turn to page 42.
42.
Because this is a game.
Oh, thank God. We barely... Oh, fuck. No, I thought we missed it. I saw 44 and I thought we missed it. I thought we were safe. I was about to make a joke that we... I
was... Okay. So let me...
He's cuckoo for Kingdom Hearts.
Dude, let me lay the groundwork here. Please. So this was at the peak of my Final Fantasy obsessiveness. And I also grew up watching all of these Disney movies. And seeing just these stills of Squall, they call him Leon in Kingdom Hearts for some reason, and Tidus, and Riku, and Kairi. And you like seeing all of these characters that I love in this completely separate entity.
Johnny, Bobby doesn't know who Yuffie is right now. Shh.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Actually, it's out today, isn't it? Intergrade's out today. Tomorrow? Okay.
I think. So, yeah, I was flipping through, and then I saw this beautiful spread. And let me tell you, as someone who has played Kingdom Hearts in the last year and a half, you can't go home because that game is bad. But at the time,
three's bad, one's bad.
They're all bad, right?
Both are bad, right? People like 2.
I never played 2. I played 1, and that was it. But I was obsessed with it. I wanted to know every single thing there was in the world, and there's a part where you go to Hercules' planet, and Sephiroth is there.
Yep.
And you fight Sephiroth.
You fight Cerberus, don't you? And then Cloud's there, and
Cloud's there. Cloud is this mysterious stranger who doesn't say much. And
I think my favorite part about this whole it's actually a 2-page spread or 4 2 spreads, 4 pages. Is this screenshot of Hades here with the Japanese subtitles because that's the screenshot they got, and I was like, I bet that doesn't sound like
James Woods.
So
James Woods.
They actually got him to voice Hades in the game.
True.
Though.
Yeah. Well, good that we're giving James Woods more.
Anybody who knows or has been following around since last summer knows that my foray into Final Fantasy has been pretty limited. But I remember when this was when Kingdom Hearts was coming out, I remember the commercials having some really good music to it. Obviously, it looked like Pixar to me. I think the graphics were really impressive. I had zero desire to check it out, but I did have a lot of people around me who were very into it, and
I was so obsessed with it. I was completely just all in on that crazy ass story, and wanted to know what happened with Kyrie.
You know what happened?
No, I don't. I before Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, I tried watching and also listening to the Waypoint podcast, the lore reasons.
I haven't even played. I played a few hours of the first game a little while ago. Certainly not when it first came out, but a little while ago, and hated it because it plays like garbage.
It's not great. It's not great.
But yeah, I did the same thing as you, Johnny. I watched all the cutscenes for Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, and for a number of the not side games because they are also integral parts of the story.
Oh god,
but the smaller
355 over
games.
2 days, Dream Drop Distance. That's when they begin to lose me.
That's when?
Yeah. But shoot, I had a point here. Oh, I did play a little bit of 3. Because I did game share with my sister, and she is a gigantic Kingdom Hearts fan. Still to this day, she's played all the games, except for probably the web one that came out. And I played 4 or 5 hours of it, and was I'm good.
Yeah,
I don't need to see this through. It looks real nice, but
you can use the teacups as a summon now.
You could, and you go on that one that's like a raft. Flies around.
This is the biggest outside of the cover article. I think this Kingdom Hearts article is the second biggest one in this publication.
It was the feature story, one of the feature stories.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
You're right. This is also the April issue. I don't know if anybody picked it, but this is so Game Informer did the Game Enforcer, which is just some bullshit that they wrote.
Yep.
Where they'd have a mini magazine within the magazine. This was just two spreads, but they didn't. That was one of their features for April was just some really unfunny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some real bad shit. Poopamon Plaid. Get it? Because it's like Pokemon.
Oh, I get it.
They gave it a 38.5.
They were into it.
Johnny, what's your next one?
Yeah, let's go to page 25. So on page 25.
Oh no, I have one of Bobby's.
Which one?
Go ahead.
More Grand Theft Auto.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So this is interesting because this little blurb is basically saying that there's going to be an expansion or DLC for Grand Theft Auto 3 called Grand Theft Auto Miami. And if you notice,
not DLC. There wasn't DLC back in the
expansion title.
That's what I'm saying. It would have been, by our standards, it would have been a DLC today. But at that point in time, it would have been an expansion. And
sure.
So if you look,
this is the most interesting article in this entire magazine.
Yeah, because this is some there's some real shit here. And
some wrong shit too, or some miscommunicated.
If you zoom out with our lens, 5 more episodes or 5 more prints? 113. The cover was Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and
I remember getting that one. I remember getting that one because my family was having a garage sale at the time. and I had to sit out there like with the cash box and make change for people. And when people weren't there, I was reading through this magazine, and I was reading through, I think the one that came after or the one that came before, that was Jade Empire was the cover.
Yep.
And I read both of those magazines cover to cover while while working the cash box for the garage sale.
There's a few things that are interesting about this for me.
Why don't we read the whole article, Bobby?
Yeah. Rockstar is rattling off a few more Grand Theft Auto shots following GTA 3's monster success on the PlayStation 2. Sources have it that the controversial game will spawn an expansion title to be called Grand Theft Auto 3 Miami. In an annual report, Take-Two, owners of subsidiary Rockstar Games, CEO Kelly Sumner, stated a new GTA 3 title will be out by the end of the year, and insiders firmly place it in Don Johnson's old stomping ground. No further details on Grand Theft Auto 3 Miami have been revealed, but we are sure fans will take to it like a bat to bone. Game Informer has also been told that work on Grand Theft Auto 4 is now underway, although the company has denied previous rumors that a GameCube version of GTA 3 is in the works. Expect more on both of these hot properties at this year's E3 convention in May. See you in Miami. So, what's interesting to me about this is they weren't half right, but they weren't half wrong. And the information that they were getting about the setting was 100% accurate.
Yes.
The information about them working on Grand Theft Auto 4, 100% accurate.
Well, yes and no. Grand Theft Auto 4 was actually San Andreas.
Right.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's
like
fair.
we miss a whole Grand Theft Auto in there somewhere. The 4 was made eventually, but that's not what we're talking about. Also, I find it interesting that they write Grand Theft Auto 4 with a Roman numeral, or not with a
regular
Arabic, or with a number 4. But GTA 3 everywhere else is written with the Roman numerals.
ETA or E3 being in May, I found that was a little strange because we see it pushed back a little bit further now. The other thing too is it's just weird to see that Rockstar is actually making other Grand Theft Auto games, like working on more than one Grand Theft Auto game at a time.
Yeah,
Rockstar
they put them out all the time.
Other than GTA Online, yeah.
Yeah, it's if you really want a time capsule, well, kids, pull up a seat.
Also, the fact that they could put out Grand Theft Auto Vice City a little under a year after putting out Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yep.
I imagine Rockstar putting out something within a year of something else they made. Like, it's impossible now. And like they're crunching themselves to death and they still can't do it.
It was also for me, like, to tie it back to something personal, Grand Theft Auto 3 was my first time playing one of those games, but Grand Theft Auto 4 blew me away and is still my favorite. It's the best Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is the best.
There you go. That's
the best stuff. One. And
that's right.
I think that my interest back then of leaks like this, I love that culture now. And like, I feel this would have been, like, if we would have kept this out as it sits and put that as a tweet today, like, imagine the next Grand Theft Auto being alluded to this way and like, hey, see you at E3, and like all the stuff that they were doing, that would be one of the biggest, like, everybody would be talking about it. And I think that probably, like, this got people excited. But for me, I know when I was looking at this, my eyes were all over Mario on this page, more so than the potential of that. And it's just, for me, like, how I've grown, I don't know if grown's the way to look at it, but the way that I have consumed as I've gotten older, like, I want those leaks. I want the spoils. I want to know what's next. And so much so that, like, that's what stood out to me more on this page than anything else, because Sunshine ended up not being really Sunshine for me. And
like, critically it was kind of all over the place. I mean, people still liked it at the time, but I think as time has gone on,
it's a bad game. It's a bad Mario game.
A couple of notes on Grand Theft Auto, since I also had that one here. Couple of things here. One, like, they say GTA 3 Miami, which, I don't. It was never going to be that, and it must have been like some game of telephone or something, because in Grand Theft Auto for 1994, 1995, the original, like, that game has Vice City in it. The name
Right.
Vice City is already
Yep,
there.
you go
as
to
something
Vice City.
mentioned. You go to Vice City. Like, so, and also, like, Liberty City was in New York City. We knew they were going to make a fake name. It's interesting that they called it Miami here. I think it's also interesting, though. I mean, they say Don Johnson's old stomping ground because Miami Vice. I do find it funny that the actor who played Don Johnson in Miami Vice is actually from Missouri, so his old
Yep.
stomping ground would be here, not
Man.
not Miami.
Maybe some popular, but if they, I would give a lot of money to Rockstar if they would go back to that area.
Me too, man. Me too. A little bit more here. So Vice City would be officially revealed on May 22nd at E3 2002. And I found that to be really interesting, too, in a modern context, because these days, Rockstar doesn't give a fuck about E3.
No.
And in fact, this was the first year they stopped giving a fuck about E3. Rockstar did not show Vice City. Sony did, I believe.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a legend, but the legend goes that when they showed Grand Theft Auto 3 at E3 2001, the gaming press flocked to State of Emergency instead, which nobody remembers State of Emergency now, but it was a very similar game, and a lot of people thought that looked better than GTA 3. And then GTA 3 came out, and everyone went, whoa, this is the one. But that like spurned the story goes that spurned Rockstar, and they decided, fuck it, we're too good for E3 anymore. And so they just don't show stuff at E3. And this was the first year that they kind of said, not for us. Let
I know
somebody
that
else
we're
talk
not
about
doing
games.
predictions, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but what's the probability of a title card for another Grand Theft Auto happening this year?
I say 0%.
Has that?
There's been no talk of it that I've seen.
Is that PS5? No, has the PS5 version of 3 come out yet?
That comes out
Or is that later this year?
later this year. Yep.
Okay. I don't know. It's been 3 years since Red Dead Redemption 2. They're still adding stuff to GTA Online.
Well, didn't they
they
confirm that
don't-
GTA Online is going to break away and be like its own game?
I mean, that would make the most sense.
Yeah, it's going to become like a Call of Duty Warzone kind of thing.
But as ambitious, whether or not you like the end product, like as larger than life as, RDR2 and GTA 5 both were, like, it's going to be a long time before we see the next game from them, I think.
As we wrap up, just one little, that was what they had in there for the Miami, the Grand Theft Auto 3 Miami in this magazine. So
I'm in Miami, bitch.
Yeah, Chase, great minds think alike. I don't know if you have a backup or not.
Nope. So
Okay.
Johnny can go. Johnny,
Okay.
why don't you hit up your next one?
Okay.
What page?
Turn to page 58, please.
Okay.
All right.
Soul Calibur
Take a look.
2.
Oh my goodness. I love this game. Absolutely love it.
So this is a preview.
Yeah.
This is a preview that's only specifically talking about PlayStation 2. It's not talking about the other consoles.
It's not.
They don't mention the platform exclusive characters anywhere.
They don't. Which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, Soul Calibur 2 is my introduction to the series. I had it on PS2. So I had Heihachi.
The worst one.
What's it? Yeah. You'd think me being, well, no, I wouldn't have had my GameCube at this time because I traded in my PS2 to get a GameCube. So naturally you would think I would get the one with Link in it, being the gigantic Zelda fan that I am. But no, I had the PS2 version, and this, Bobby, is how you were saying, like Tiger Woods was for you and your friends.
Yep.
Soul Calibur at this time. My friends would come over. I would play as Keelik. I would absolutely destroy them.
Because you use the cheese character.
It's a character in the game.
Well, this wasn't the one that
It's a
had.
character in the game.
This did not have the pre-order.
Or Valdo. It'd be Valdo.
Is this one that had it? That you got Link and
It wasn't pre-order; they were version exclusive.
They were just
so
version
if you got the GameCube, you get Link. If you
Xbox
got the
had
PS2,
Spawn.
you get Heihachi, and Xbox was Spawn. And even though Spawn is stupid, at least he fights with a weapon. Heihachi, this is a weapon fighter game, and Heihachi just has fists.
Yep.
Which is badass on Heihachi's part, but not very good if you're trying to play a game and have no range.
Yep. So as far as like the Soul Calibur series at large is concerned, I fell off after 4. I've never been like, this is probably the actual real fighting game that I've gotten the most into and tried to take the time to actually learn how to play as some of these characters. I mentioned Keelik. I would also play as Nightmare and Valdo and Ivy. And man, what a great cast of characters that game has. Were you guys into Soul Calibur at all?
Yeah,
back then,
for sure.
Not back then. Certainly not back then. I have an appreciation for it now, but it was not something I really played. I know I played over at a friend's house who had a GameCube, so I got to play as Link. But it was not my fighter of choice.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time playing this game, and I keep telling myself I'll pick up Soul Calibur 6 when it goes on sale, and I just never have. But I'm still glad that they're making them. It's cool that, a series that you loved as a kid is able to stick around and still find an audience as you grow up.
Before we move on, just a fun question, because I never really played any of these, but I distinctly remember them only because of their guest characters. I don't think 3 had any guest characters, right? 3, I think the big thing was that you. I
thought that was the one with Vader and Yoda.
That was 4.
That's 4?
That's 4, okay.
Definitely 4. Because Vader was PlayStation and Yoda was Xbox. Because Yoda was green and had a green lightsaber. That's how I remember that one. Do you remember what 5 was?
It was the roster from Dead or Alive Volleyball.
No, not quite.
I don't remember.
But the one I remember was Ezio. Ezio Auditore was.
That's right. That is right.
Yeah.
And Geralt too. Wasn't Geralt in one of them?
The newer ones.
Was he in 6?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Okay.
Let me look it up, because there's another one also in 6. I think Geralt was also in 6 too.
He was busy. He was in Monster Hunter. He was in Soul Calibur.
Geralt's Soul Calibur.
He was on Netflix.
Soul Calibur 6. Yep. Yeah. Do you know the other character that was in Soul Calibur 6 as a guest character, as a DLC character? I believe.
Battletoad.
No, not quite.
for Xbox.
I don't remember.
2B from Nier Automata.
Oh,
that makes sense.
That's cool.
People were really horny, huh?
Alternate cover. Yeah, there was an alternate super horny cover of Ivy and 2B.
Yeah.
Like pushing their breasts as high as they could go.
Yep.
Video games.
Just anime stuff.
Yep. I think that means we're back on to Bobby. Bobby, what's your last one?
32, my dudes. Page 32.
2. Oh, okay. We gonna do some trivia?
Nope.
Oh, that's too bad.
Smaller
Did
boxes.
you guys try doing the trivia?
No.
It was hard. It was really, really hard.
I found this article very interesting. The title is "Smaller Boxes, Bigger Savings."
That's what she's. No, never mind.
Yeah. So I'm going to read through some of this really quick. Catching shoppers' eyes is a marketing science in itself, especially when you're contending with a sea of PC titles. Companies such as Electronic Arts and
Eidos.
There we go. However, are spearheading a new trend towards DVD-sized boxes that is making both publishers and retailers quite happy.
That'll never work.
It'll never work. But if we jump down a little bit, while the format means a better visual presentation for publishers' titles, allowing you to see the whole cover and not just the spine, and therefore more dollars for retailers, what does this mean for us? It says that we're already seeing the benefits. If we don't change the boxes, our games would probably be available for $30 to $40 instead of $20. Now, I find it interesting that prices were going down at the time because games were being shipped out. And shipping costs, you had to pack more. There was more that you're shipping because the boxes are bigger. But, we've talked on this show, a couple of friends of the show, other podcasts have covered things around cost of games as well. And like the cost to make a game and how games had for a while been around the same price. I just find it really interesting that we're shipping this year 2 consoles without disk drives on them. And yet digital games, as we look at the cost of digital games, which again, coming directly from their stores, cost the same amount. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but it's just an interesting thing to see back in 2002. We're talking about lowering costs with the physical size of a game to now being, like for me, for the last 4 years, I've been digital only for 90%, 95% of my purchases. And I'm paying the same amount. And even then paying more, like they still get you. Like even if you're not buying like like back then, like sure, I'll pay more for the Steelbook. I'll do all that. And they even allude in the article, people who want the instruction manuals, but they can now download a PDF of the instruction manuals. And like where we're at today, it's just funny that like games actually are more now by $10 than they were last generation on situations where there's no shipping whatsoever.
You're not wrong. One, I would say this is specifically about PC games and those PC boxes. They had
huge.
They certainly used to be huge and have all those. I believe they're called greeblies in there, like the fold-out maps that you could then turn into a poster. Lots of little paper pieces that you'd get out of those physical things. That was the reason they needed those bigger boxes. And so switching to that DVD format, like you said, it ended up being some of that stuff got lost, some of that stuff got cut, some of that stuff got thrown onto a website somewhere for you to download instead. And then also, I mean, we're certainly glazing over if we're just thinking about packaging as the only increased cost of video games. I know that's not what you're saying, but when you think about the amount of time that it takes to make a video game, the amount of rendering time, the amount of time to build something that has more polygons in it, the bigger teams associated with some of these bigger games. We were just talking about Rockstar and how Grand Theft Auto Vice City was able to come out within a year. And a lot of that had to do with them using a similar engine that also had a lot of lower poly assets to it. Games just take longer to make these days and therefore are more expensive. And that's kind of where that excess cost comes in. Not that, I mean, you still have a good point though. Like games are still $70 whether you buy them online or whether you buy them at the store these days. And I think there's a good question of why that is. Is it just because we pay it, or is there some other reason?
The digital deluxe stuff is really funny to me, and like I still buy a lot of those games that way. But I remember I think the last really big. Well, I just got the Legendary Crate. I mean, I got the helmet for Mass Effect up there, but I remember getting Arkham City, and it had that really cool statue that came with the bigger version of it. I want to say that was one of the last ones I got, but. Like even now, they're going to package the same cost for a digital one, where like they're going to charge you $99 for the digital, but you're not going to have the statues, but you might get some in-game shit. And then it's like, well, hang on a second, like
or a soundtrack,
or
a digital art book.
Then it becomes like, hey, we're going to send you a steel case that has no disc in it because you got a voucher for it. It's just weird shit now. It's just weird. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's wrong or right. It's just weird.
And Smurf even brought up a good point in the chat that Nintendo games, cartridge-based games, could go at all sorts of different price points based on the number of chips and the special kinds of chips that needed to go in there. Think about something like Yoshi's Island was a much more expensive game because it had the Super FX chip in it. That some of those other Super Nintendo games didn't have. Nintendo 64 games could certainly get up there in price because of being that cartridge-based format. A lot of that stuff was just way more expensive. So costs actually went pretty way down in the GameCube era, back down to the $50 that we kind of expected through your disc stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Man, how much money did they save on all them little discs?
Man.
Bobby, are you finished there?
I'm good.
Should I move on?
I just found that one a little bit more interesting, and again, it's a sign of the times to come. If we only knew.
All right, I'll give you guys one guess at the last thing that I picked in this magazine.
The last thing that Chase picked in this magazine is going to be back in the back. And he's going to be talking about page 76.
I may be talking about 76. What's on 76? Baseball? No, I'm not. I'm not going to talk about baseball. But it's a good guess, though. It's a good guess. No, I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about me. I was going to talk about Chase.
Damn, I almost picked Chase.
Although I really wanted to talk about some of these handheld video games. The winner of the game of the month was oh, never mind. We'll find out what that was later. I picked Chase for the Xbox, which eventually. Let me read this thing and I'll tell you.
What page was that on again?
Huh?
What page?
Oh, page 67.
Okay.
67. So this was their photo file, which is kind of like, hey, these are previews, but we don't care about any of these games, so we're just going to kind of throw them all together with the tiniest blurbs that we can do. So let's talk about Chase here for the Xbox. As Chase Coronado, a skilled and cunning stunt driver, you must maneuver a number of different vehicles to achieve various mission-based objectives through 5 movie sets and 1 training mission. As you might expect from the game's title, play will revolve around your character chasing after certain things and being pursued by others. Does that sound crazy enough for you, Majesties? Your Majesties?
Dude, I bet you that game played like dog shit.
We'll get to that. Being developed by a South African-based team dubbed I Imagine, Chase will likely arrive on U.S. shelves this fall. And I would arrive on U.S. shores that fall. So let me tell you a little bit more about this. This game eventually became Chase Hollywood Stunt Driver. And I found this to be really fascinating that in the issue that's main preview was on Stuntman. That's the one that they seem to care about the most. That got a 2-page spread with a bunch of screenshots. This was another Stuntman kind of game that got shuffled off into the photo file. So I looked up a bunch of stuff about Chase Hollywood Stunt Driver, and let me tell you about it. Chase Hollywood Stunt Driver would release in September of 2002 on the original Xbox. Chase is actually a lady stunt driver.
What?
Full name Chase Corrada, even though you just heard me in the magazine say Chase Coronado. I don't know if that got changed, if that was a misprint, what, but that was a difference. And while the magazine says she drives through 5 different movie sets over the course of the game, the actual game has 4 plus a final illegal race against a rival stuntman that's not actually a movie set. Looking through the Wikipedia page for Chase is incredible. The 4 fake films you do scenes for are The Unchaseables, which is a gangster film. Chase of the Triad 4, a Hong Kong action film. Chasing Survival, a post-apocalyptic film in the style of Mad Max. And The Spy Who Chased Me, a stylish spy film in the style of James Bond films.
This is terrible.
I have a question for you guys. Why would you name your movies after your stunt woman driver, who's not actually a star in the movie?
It's
yuck.
It I don't have an answer for that, Chase.
Yep, that's good. It's a really good question. Question of our times. Anyway, Metacritic has it sitting at around a 60 Metascore. I did like this line from the Game Informer review. This would come later when it came out. Trick buttons can't pull Chase out of mediocrity, which, God, people have been saying that to me my
Chase,
entire life.
why don't you end every show now with that? Trick buttons can't pull Chase out of mediocrity.
It's true. But on the other hand, Metacritic user Eric K was a little nicer in his December 6, 2002 user review, saying, I do not see anything wrong with this game, and I love it, and everyone should get it. Sounds pretty legit to me.
You know what, Eric? Fair.
There were some other user reviews I read that were like, this is way better than Stuntman. And you're like, dude, you're kidding yourself. Stuntman was good, and this game is shit.
Get lost.
Looking at the cover of this game, I did actually remember seeing the cover. When I read through this magazine when that game would have come out, I was not going by Chase. Chase is my middle name. I was going by my actual first name. So it would have just completely went over my head that there was a game called Chase and that it would matter. But it was very funny to read through this magazine that I picked out at literal random and found a preview for a game at that time just called Chase.
It's good.
Like, well, I guess that's got to be my pick.
Oh my god!
All right, Johnny, take us home with something important.
Just very quickly. I Imagine Interactive.
Oh, you could actually find some of them? I looked up for them and I couldn't find anything.
I found a Facebook page.
Okay.
Last update, March 18th, 2013.
Ooh.
For their
Still chasing
app. I don't know quite what it is. It's called Soul Mote. All of the links for it are now dead.
okay.
But they have an article in here. XBMC and Ouya. Oh yeah.
Ooh.
So they were hot on that Ouya train.
Well, now we know why they were so
roll call.
Yeah. So it looks like sadly that studio has shuttered. It said they were the first independent video game studio to be founded on the continent of Africa. So that's it's a cool achievement.
And I did watch a Let's Play of that game that had somebody going through all the levels.
Mm-hmm.
They seemed fine for the time.
Yeah.
It really was a stuntman kind of game where it would set you up. You'd drive. You'd hit a couple jumps. It actually had the indicator of the arrow pointing where you needed to go, like Crazy Taxi style.
That's cool. That is a nice mechanic.
Pretty solid. It would go into slow-mo at specific points. Like when you hit your jump, it would go into slow-mo. It actually looked okay. And it had some very cinematic camera angles that would stay at those angles as you went by them. It looked like you would keep your controls, but the camera angles would just switch to be something. So it would go to like a really low angle as you hit the jump and the slow-mo went. And then when you crash back down, it would like bring you back into the real game.
Yeah.
It seemed okay. It also seemed really stupid. Like some of the obstacles were like crash into 4 telephone booths as you're going, and the person driving, like, they're not making it look like a good movie. They're just randomly crashing into stuff, crashing into the telephone thing, and then crashing into a telephone pole that just crumpled like paper because
video games
craftsmanship, really.
Johnny, what page?
Chase, you guys need to turn to page 86.
86?
Yep,
yes.
Talking about the game of the month.
And the game of the month, and the reason I wanted to talk about this game, I think maybe is probably the reason that Chase did too. But I remember the first time
I just wanted to talk about it because it was a handheld game.
Yes.
And the reason I didn't pick it is because it's not a hand. I mean, it is a handheld game.
It is.
It's not a handheld game.
But the fact that you could play Super Mario World,
it's true,
on a handheld in 2002 was nothing short of remarkable.
It also continues the dumbest Mario naming convention that Nintendo has ever done.
Okay, yes, give the proper title here. Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2.
Love it.
So I
love it.
All those games, if you didn't know, would come with the original Mario Brothers arcade game and Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers 3. Or in this case,
do you remember the
Mario
actual
World.
order though, Johnny?
No, it was real stupid, wasn't it?
Super Mario Advance was actually Super Mario Brothers 2, and I believe that was the case because they'd made Super Mario Brothers Deluxe for the Game Boy Color.
That's right.
They already had a remake of Super Mario Brothers, the original, for a previous console. So I think that's the reason that happened. This was 2. This was Advance 2. That was Super Mario World. Then I believe 3 was actually 3. And then 4 was Yoshi's Island.
Okay.
God. Why is it so confusing? Why was it so hard?
Because
they made the ones they made people like Mario World more than they like Mario 3. They're wrong, but people do that. So Nintendo wanted to get the ones that people liked out first. Because I think Super Mario Advance, the one that was actually Super Mario Brothers 2, didn't do all that well for them.
Sure.
Because that's a weird game that people didn't care about. So
It's a
then I
damn
think they're
shame,
like, let's
'cause
go
it's-
with the fucking winner.
It's a fine video game.
It's a fine video game.
Yeah, they scored it a 9.5. Andy McNamara came in with a second opinion, gave it a 9.25, but he kind of echoes my sentiments here. Like, I remember the first time I learned, holy shit, you can play Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World on a Game Boy? That's crazy. Yeah, he said, I never would have guessed that I would be able to play a near perfect version of this Super NES classic on a handheld system back when it first saw the light of day in 1991.
That's pretty remarkable.
I mean, it's 12 years after the game launched on the SNES, and if you just think about how games worked back then and how the Game Boy was back then, to fast forward 12 years and to have one that can play games in the same amount of detail as what you had on that system hooked into your television, it's pretty crazy.
It's how we look at mobile games now. At least I do. Like, I mean, we talked about, what was last week where I was talking about Divinity on the iPad, and like having this, like, I can't believe I get to play this here. Like,
yeah, remember Topple when that was the hot shit on your iPhone?
Topple.
Yep.
Topple and Topple 2.
I loved those games. You can't play them anymore.
No, you can't. What's the one that's not Loco Roco but totally is Roco Roco? Rolando.
Rolando.
Yep.
I played a lot of Rolando.
R.I.P. Rolando. So yeah,
Johnny, can I ask a question here?
Yeah.
I know I can read on the side. I haven't read through this full review, so maybe you can tell me. I know the sound has been dinged in this version for a while because the Game Boy Advance just did not have as good sound hardware as some other things. And then I see in the entertainment part, and I kind of remember this too, where it says the addition of stats and minor gameplay enhancements makes Super Mario World even better. I don't remember what those enhancements or changes were. Did they get into what those changes were in the article?
I don't. Hang on, let me skim through this very quickly.
Because I know some things like Super Mario Deluxe has like some new coins and shit that are in the game. Super Mario Advance, the Super Mario Brothers 2 makes a lot of adjustments to some graphics and to some additional things that are in there. Super Mario Brothers 3, I believe, I can't remember when they started, but at some point they started adding the original Mario Brothers as an option to all of these games, all of these Mario Advance games where you could just play
was in there. Record keeping is a clever addition. So you can see how long it took to save Peach and get head-to-head numbers on which character you've beaten the most levels with. You can save at any point, and this time it keeps track of your lives and power-up situation.
Okay,
that's really cool.
Good.
Some quality of life stuff in there, and you can play as Luigi.
We talked about this on a long ago deep dive of mine back when we could actually see each other in person. Man, what a concept!
What a concept!
But Super Mario Advance 3, the one that was Super Mario
Brothers 3,
that one had e-reader support, and it had specific downloadable levels you could get if you had those e-reader cards that have not really been featured pretty much anywhere else. I think the Wii eShop version or the Wii Virtual Console version of that brought those back, but I don't think there are any e-reader functionality pieces in this one.
Damn.
Still really cool.
It's awesome.
And also fucking Shantae ad right next to it.
I know.
These ads, man. Like this is a Game Boy Color game. Yeah. And it's sitting right next to this Game Boy Advance game. And they're like, that's how late Shantae came out in the Game Boy Color
Enhanced performance on Game Boy Advance, it says here, though.
Sure. But
I never played Shantae.
It should have been advanced.
I never played Shantae either, but the screenshots were always the most gorgeous things. And now you can, because they just did the work, or I think WayForward contracted out the work and ported the original Shantae to Switch. So you can now play the original Shantae there. And I hear that is great. And that's probably the way I will finally play Shantae, because the Game Boy Color version, being so late in the life cycle, didn't get a lot of copies made and became one of those really expensive games to try to buy on the used market. I thought that was cool.
Right on.
Shantae rules.
Chase, anything else we need to go over on the magazine? Or are we?
I mean, I think there are other little interesting parts here. We can go to the charts page. Remember when they would actually tell you how many video games got sold?
Yeah.
Not like now where they try to hide it as much as possible. But like, let's go to the NPD top 20 here. Grand Theft Auto 3 was number 1. State of Emergency was number 2. So people still liked State of Emergency. Game Informer gave that an 8. They gave Grand Theft Auto a 9.5. Super
Still
Mario
high
Advance
marks.
2, WWF Raw, Sonic Advance make up the rest of the top 5 there. They had the Japan top 10. I always find these to be interesting because some of these games aren't out over here yet, so we have their kind of Americanized names that haven't quite been translated. So they're still calling Animal Crossing Animal Forest, for instance, which I find interesting. Super Smash Bros. DX, which ended up being Super Smash Bros. Melee over here. Like some of that stuff is very, very cool to me. I think all this stuff is this magazine is just neat.
Yeah, man.
Pretty cool.
They had guides in a magazine. Like that just feels like wasted space these days, right?
Sure.
They had some tips and tricks. They have this brief history of Mario here. They have. I forgot that they did classic reviews where they just review a few games. They picked a TurboGrafx 16 game called Military Madness. Actually, 4 TurboGrafx games here: Military Madness, China Warrior, Ninja Spirit, and Bonk's Adventure. And other than Bonk, I'd never heard of any of those other games before. It's cool. It is really cool to come back and see a magazine
Yeah, man,
like
this was a ton of fun.
And one of my favorite things here at the end of the magazine, it's called Etc. This is where they put like their non-video game, like here's figures and statues and peripheral stuff. And that took up 1 page in a magazine. Think about a GameStop, going into a GameStop now, it's 90% Funko Pops and then like 1 PS4 game in the back.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy how the landscape has shifted to these things. It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing. Did you guys like doing this?
This was awesome.
Would you guys like to do this again sometime?
Absolutely. I would love to do this.
Maybe we'll pick a different magazine. Maybe we'll pick a different era.
I have a specific copy of EGM that I read through a million times that I would love to talk about with you guys.
Well, I'm not going to tell you that this was the cheapest venture that I've ever gone on in terms of buying 2 of
Next
the exact
round's on
same
me.
video game magazine. So maybe that's something we can split in the future. But yeah,
or we can just try and resell these to make up for our other ones.
If you'd like to do that, I mean, I can't sell mine because it's part of a collection, Bobby.
I get that.
That I had. This is my copy. This is my real copy. But yeah, this was super fun for me.
Yeah, this was great.
I love talking about old shit and to have like this. We've said it a couple times now. This time capsule here, I think, is fascinating. Where we can go through, see some historical context. Like E3 was right on the precipice. They were about to talk about E3 stuff. I think that was the very next magazine. So
it was.
we're about to talk about E3 as well.
Yeah, man.
Just cool stuff. Just really cool stuff. And I never know how to end the show, so Bobby, I'm going to throw it back to you to
yeah, for sure.
tell us all.
I will
stuff.
say, Chase, again, thank you. This was awesome. Definitely brought back a lot of really good memories for me, and it was nice to have the magazine to flip through again. There's something really cool about that. So thank you for, as always, bringing some really cool show and tell to our deep dives. For those of you who are listening to this, we recorded this on June 9th. So we record every Wednesday. Well, we're recording this one later. This was at 9:30 tonight, but traditionally at 7:30 on Wednesdays, Central Time, we can tune in to watch us record these podcasts live. If you're watching, you can download these podcasts and relive the memories every Friday at 9, where podcasts can be found. We do stream some games on this site from time to time. Usually is on Monday nights with Casual Mondays, and on Fridays. This past Monday, Chase and I had the privilege of playing that new Clay joint, Grifflands. We liked it so much, we even put a quick look out that was on our YouTube page on Tuesday. You can still go and find that right now. Tomorrow, for those of you who are live, got a little treat for you. we have a new quick look going up for a game called Stonefly that you should check out. For those of you who are listening to it, head back to YouTube, check out Stonefly. Really cool game that just came out. Chase and I were able to hop in for a quick look there. This Friday, we talked about playing some No Man's Sky. That might still happen, but there's also a backup plan to maybe play that new Ratchet and Clank that people seem to like quite a bit. So we might fire that up on Friday night. But next week, as Chase was teasing, we've got a lot of stuff happening this weekend with E3. And we don't want to put any like definitive time slots out there for the weekend. Johnny's going to be out of town, but Chase and I might hop on stream, break down some of the video footage that's released during the day for E3 before leading up to our big E3 celebration episode that's happening 1 week from today. So if you are watching, set a reminder. If you are listening, do the same thing. But we will do some E3 coverage, give some hot takes, maybe some things that we're excited for, some surprises, what was missing, who knows. But we will cover the show as best as we can. Next week, we have another Casual Monday where Chase will be picking the game that we played that week.
Yeah, we'll see. Like, Grifflands was a lot of fun. We might just go back to Grifflands, but I've got some other ideas too. We'll figure something out.
If you need to know what's up with us, you can follow along. We're at the Casual Hour where all social happens. There's some links in chat right now for that. Chase, the Gamer on the Go, why don't you tell us a bit about what's happening there?
There's actually a lot happening.
Yeah.
So first, because I keep forgetting to do this, I'm still playing Super Robot Wars X. I've been putting those out consistently every Wednesday and Saturday. So if you are listening to this now, there will be a new episode that started when our podcast started. So you can go and watch that.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're listening to this on Friday, well, there's another one that's coming out tomorrow. So you can listen to that on Saturday or watch that on Saturday. Those have been really fun. I've gotten to have a couple guests on so far. Looking forward to bringing on more guests. Johnny, I think we'll get you on sometime relatively soon. It depends on when a specific character comes into the party. So that's still happening. And then also, we do this every week where I say Bobby and I are working on another episode of Gamers on the Go, getting there. And we are. That part hasn't changed. But what has changed is that a different episode of Gamers on the Go has leapfrogged me and Bobby, and I'll be doing that episode here really soon, and I think that should be going up before you listen to this next podcast. So probably sometime this weekend, I'll be putting out a show with one of my good friends. I'm not gonna say the name. I'm not gonna say the name of the game, but I'm really excited for it. It's something I've been trying to get this particular friend to play for years, and they finally did.
Oh,
and I'm so happy. And now we get to talk about it. So
awesome.
that'll be really fun too. You can find that at gamersonthego.com, and then Bobby also has the YouTube link for you to watch Super Robot Wars.
Awesome. Chase, thanks again. Looking forward for you and I to record an episode. I am putting the work in, and I'm looking forward to talking about that with you. Johnny, you've got an 8-year-old son.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
What are you doing with your 8-year-old son in the realm of video games?
We've been playing some Drawful together. Minecraft just dropped that Caves and Cliff update.
I want to check that out.
Yesterday, he actually inquired if he could maybe drop by and tell us about the Caves and Cliffs update.
Does he show up on time?
Unlike his father, he will show up on time.
Good.
So I was going to chat with you guys about that possibility. And yeah, man, it's all Minecraft all the time with him still. In perpetuity. We'll see how long he rides this wave of Minecraft, but it's his obsession still.
Great. We would love to have a talented Amazitch on this show sometime, so
that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Would be a nice change. And for all of you who hung out with us in chat tonight, and for those of you who tune in every week, we just want to say thank you so much. If you have not subscribed or followed our channels, please do so. Head over to YouTube, like and follow there. Those quick looks are a ton of fun, and we're getting a better rhythm with those as well. So more fun stuff to come this week. It's honestly like one of the funnest times right now for those who are following games. This is always a big time with E3, and there happened to be a lot of cool games that came out. I feel like we're all kind of doing cool stuff here at the show, and then outside of the show as well, some really cool shit happening. What a time to be hanging out at the casual hour is what I will say. So get in where you fit in, and we will see you all this Friday. Take care.